country, we live by the GDP, the gross domestic product, and the government is always talking about growth, about economic growth. But in your country, alongside the GDP, you also have something called the GNH, or the gross national happiness principles. And we understand that these are guiding principles for your government to govern by and for your people to live by. So we'd be really interested to hear a bit more about what are those guiding principles and how do they work?
We believe that every nation, every society ought to have a North Star. We know that long ago, when precision equipment like we have today were not invented, sailors lost on the wide open seas looked at the North Star and followed the North Star to find the safety of the shore. In the same way, we believe every nation ought to have its own North Star. For Bhutan, gross national happiness, as envisioned by our fourth king, His Majesty GNH, has been our North Star. Today, we live in a visionless world, and part of the reason why the world is in the mess that it is in is because we have done an incredible amount of work in terms of cultivating the material dimension of our life and societies, but lost some of the deep core foundations that sustain our life and allow us to look for something beyond the here and the now and the material dimensions. So far, our policy making, our programs in the country have been guided by this North Star, and we hope that in the years to come, it will continue being our North Star.
We work with a lot of companies that understand the importance of a vision and a mission statement as a guiding principle to help all people feel a part of the process and to reach common goals together. And yet here it is being used as a principle for a whole country. So how might we understand how to get that vision or mission through to all levels of an organisation or all levels of a country? How do you do that?
It's so much easier to swim in the direction of the river than stand against the waves. Gross national happiness as a national vision, as a national goal, is far more difficult to achieve than achieving the goals of gross domestic product. You cut down all the trees, decimate the forest, mine the oceans, use up all the natural resources that you have around. Overnight, you double, triple, quadruple your gross national product and your revenue and per capita income. But that, we believe, is irresponsible and thoughtless. However, we believe that there is a desirable goal and there is a possible goal. The possible goal is far easier to pursue, but the desirable goal puts tremendous responsibility on the leaders, on policymakers, implementers, on citizens as a whole. It is very tempting to cultivate the GDP model, but it's far more difficult and challenging to pursue a model of gross national happiness. However, we feel this is the responsible path, the desirable path. Because as you can see around in the world today, we have done so much of harm to our planet Earth. The air is becoming unbreathable in many parts of the world. Water is becoming undrinkable. Life is becoming unlivable. And at the end of the day, all these consequences can be traced back to human action. A time comes in the life of a nation, as indeed in the life of a person, where one has to think, what is the purpose of life? What is the goal of development? I think this holds true of companies and corporations. What is the end goal of corporations and companies? Through doing what they're doing, do they make life a little better? Does the world become a little more beautiful and a little more sustainable? What value, real, authentic value and meaning and worth are corporations adding to the world? So that's why I believe for organizations, corporations, as tempting as it may be to increase profit, it is far more important to think, what is the goal of that profit? What are they going to do with that? And why is the company set up in the first place? Is it to make money? Is it to add to the revenue? Or is it to make life better, more comfortable, much more meaningful and purposeful? So there ought to be far greater reasons for setting up institutions and corporations